besin bij Petrus in Dalerië. 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 We are marching to Pretoria. 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 We are marching to Pretoria. Pretoria, here we come. We are marching to Pretoria. Pretoria, Pretoria. We are marching to Pretoria. Pretoria, yeah. We
Good evening to you all and a very warm welcome to Dunsker Fairtrade's event this Fairtrade fortnight to hear all about Bosman Adama, our Fairtrade wine producer. I would like to introduce Petrus Bosman, the Managing Director of Bosman Adama, and Elizabeth Julies, the Chairperson of the Fairtrade Premium Committee. They are live from South Africa this evening. There will now be a short video and then we'll hear from Petrus. Thank you.
So good evening, Dansko and Madison. Yeah, thank you for the introduction. Matthew, you can hear me? Everything is fine?
Yes, we can hear you well, thanks.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, no, well, my name is Petrus Bosman. I'm from Bosman Family Vineyards in Wellington. My family's been on this farm, Lilienfontein, our family farm, for 8 generations. So, but not only my family, many of the families that work and live, I think, on the farm also has been here for a few generations, which make our vineyard quite unique, is that many of our staff live on the farm. So I think there's a long bond between various families working together, and in 2009 we got the opportunity to become Fairtrade certified. So it's been just more than a decade that we've been Fairtrade accredited. Yeah, and I think as a producer, you want to call yourself a Fairtrade wine producer, but until you get the audit, and we get audited against strict international criteria, mostly social and environmental criteria. And I think as the longer you remain in the Fairtrade system, it is a progressive system, the higher the bar become. And so it's been quite a journey, and some wonderful stories that I think we can share. And Elizabeth will tell you more about what projects we have been doing and is still doing. I've prepared a short presentation just to give you a bit of a overview on Bosman, and then I'm going to hand over to Elizabeth to tell you more about the various projects. See if I can share the screen. Looks like that. Yeah.
Yeah, we're seeing that, right? That's great.
Okay, great. Yeah, so our vision is dedicated to better. We, as I said, is for us is to see if we can improve the quality of life of everyone involved. That's internally our staff, also our customers. We say we don't want you to drink more wine, we want you to drink better wine. And I firmly believe that fair trade wine is a better wine, because we care about the people that do the work. They care about the work they do, and it's a positive cycle of and a good energy. I think we retained staff, and we have less than 2% staff turnover. And so if you invest in your staff, and you just, I think the quality of your product improve. As I said, we're based here in Wellington. It's about 70 kilometers north of Cape Town. And we've been here since 1798. In the background, you can see the boutique cellar on the farm. We've got quite a wide range of wines today that we make. Obviously, not everything is made on the farm, but most of the Bosman wines we make on the property. And then we have a vineyard in Hermanus. So those of you who've been to South Africa, Hermanus is a very popular coastal beach town, famous for its whales in spring. And that the Hermanus is about 100 kilometers east of Cape Town. But just behind the mountain range, there's a valley called the Hemel en Aarde, like heaven on earth. And beautiful valley, famous for its Pinot Noir and Chardonnay, cool climate grape varieties. Our family essentially is we wine growers, so for us it's really important to plant the right variety in the right region. So Hermanus is nice and cool with the influence from the ocean, where Wellington is more warmer climate, good for making bigger red wines like Shiraz and Cabernet, and Chenin Blanc also do really well here. Yeah, I think this year the theme of this year's Fair Trade Fortnight is climate change. I think fair trade, we think a lot about people and social issues, but the environment is a very big part of the fair trade accreditation. So at Bosman, I think it was about seven years ago, we already started with a solar project. We have about 5 solar units, various warehouses, and this is the top of the wine cellar. But I think as the prices of electricity increased dramatically in South Africa, we're thinking about a second expansion of solar. Fortunately, we have ample sunshine, and as the regulatory environment softens, we can become more self-sufficient on electricity. Then we also in the process, our Hermanus it's about 160 hectares of natural or indigenous fynbos, which is a plant kingdom that really just grow in South Africa with 8,000 different species. And there we conserve about 60 hectares, and we're in the process of doing another 160 here in Wellington. So to the top left, we have Ashwell, and I think it's also part of a community project. So and to the bottom right, you see that yellowish, look like a spin cushion, but it's quite unique. We've identified already two species that's highly endangered or rarely seen. So I think once we get this project off, it can also be tourism gets going again. Someone like Asheville can do take tourists in the mountain. Then we also, I think what with Fairtrade, you're not allowed to use certain chemicals for crop protection or herbicides. It's a lot stricter than conventional vineyard. So we're also in the process now of converting, or we already have one vineyard that's fully converted to organic. So that's all the way where we use no herbicides, and we only use sulfur and copper, in a limited amount of copper in the for crop protection. But then we rely on the sheep, and we also have quite a few goats now here in the mountain. And partly is to control the weeds in the winter, but in the summer they also help to. They love the hardened sticks and so, and to help to control the we call it alien species or invasive species. So that, as you can see in the background, the gum trees. So yeah, I think there's a lot of initiatives on the environmental front to also to take that forward and make. I think as a family business and an 8th generation family business, you obviously need to think about the next generation. I've got 3 boys, and investing back into the soil for the future generation is really important for us. There's a lot of talk about regenerative farming. So yeah, that is a healthy cycle. At this stage, I'm gonna hand over to Elizabeth, that she can maybe tell you a bit more about the community projects. Maybe just before she starts, it's today the matric results. So that's your final year at school in South Africa were released, and this year we only had 1 matriculant from our community, and she passed. So we're delighted about that. And yeah, I think if it wasn't for Fairtrade, and it would have been harder. So we could, I think we all went through it was a very difficult year, 2020. So schools were closed for large part of the year, but we could give her laptops. We could, study on our own. We have an environment where she could, and also got assistance. So those are things Fairtrade make possible. So we really aim to improve our matriculant pass rate, and also we have our first university graduate, not only a graduate, but he completed his honors in accounting, so he's on his way to become a CA. So really difficult course, Rudy Smith, and also a lot of support from Fairtrade. It's a great enabling environment, supporting some of the study and bursary funds, and just the whole community supporting Rudy. So we're really proud. He completed the course in a shorter time than I did, and our current financial manager. So we have a lot of respect what he has achieved in very tough circumstances. So the impossible is really possible with Fairtrade. But I'm going to hand over to Elizabeth at this stage.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Julius. I'm a proud worker of Bosman Adama. I'm the FBC chair lady on the farm, and I'm used to manage all the social in the project on our farm. We got many projects on our farm. One of them is a creche. The creche got 70 children, kids, and 8 well-trained teachers that they get a training every month at Pebbles. It's a Pebbles project, and we got the aftercare project. That is where our children go to the community center after school to do their homework and do researching on their task they must have for the school the next day. And then we got many of our children come hungry to the school. We got a successful feeding scheme. We give our children for the crèche children and for the after school children, they got their meals daily. Is also sponsored by the Fairtrade Premium money. And then we got our transport. We got 2 minibuses, 15 seated, and we recently bought a 35-seater bus to transport our children to school, hospital visits, and funeral gatherings and social gatherings. We are proud to have Fairtrade on our farm because it makes our life so much better, and it gives us equal living, and our standard is much better as what it was in the beginning. So we are glad to have Fairtrade on our farm, so we can do things now that we can't do in the past. And it Fairtrade Premium money uplift our community and ourselves and the children and the education of our youth. Okay, so we got social projects. One of them are the choir. You just see them perform. They are 40 members. They perform at social gatherings, funerals, and also inter competitions. And there are many youth in the choir, especially the children, the mother and the father is singing all together in the choir. So it's a big community choir. So we at Bosman Adama like to communicate with each other, and we like uplift our life standard. And so, like I said, we are very proud to have Fairtrade on our farm because our lives is much easier as it was in the past. Okay, I think that is all I want to say, and I want to thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to have a meeting with you, especially for me as a farm worker. It's a great opportunity for me to sit here and speak to you. Thank you.
I can just say Elizabeth did a stellar job during this COVID period. She organized a lot of food package, PPE. You can see at the top left protective waste, so I think people went hungry, and I think we managed the pandemic quite well with protocol that has been put in place. And I think in the community we only had 10 cases and no fatalities. We're fortunate about that. To the top right is Shanine, she represents South African karate. Housing is also a big part of Fairtrade to improve housing conditions, and probably the biggest need of the community. Maybe for me this is the final slide. I think it's sustainability really is to grow wine grapes, and we don't only grow wine grapes, we have a vine nursery and a bit of blueberries as well, but in harmony with the community and the people that live the land, so that there's a benefit and a future for everyone. So to the left is young vineyards, and to the top right is the youth, the future farmers of Bosman Adama. So this is an important slide. This is our wines, where you can get them. It looks like we've got about 10 Fairtrade wines currently available in the UK market. So we do the Sainsbury Taste the Different range. So that is the top tier or more premium range, the Cabernet and Merlot. I forgot the Chenin Blanc. This is probably our favorite one. Sauvignon Blanc and a Shiraz. And then Co-op has been a big supporter of Fairtrade, probably the world's biggest Fairtrade retailer. So we do Chardonnay, not the Chardonnay Viognier is discontinued, the Shiraz, the Sauvignon Blanc. Yeah, I think the one to the right is can't see behind, but that should be the Chardonnay. So we do 3 SKUs for them. And then obviously also our own brand, the Bosman Adama red wine. It's a blend of 7 grape varietals. I think what we also try, as I said in the beginning, Fairtrade for us is to improve quality. And I think if you do all these things, you should have a better product because you have a better kind of energy on the farm and more skilled staff and committed people. And so the Adama is the name of Adama Paulus, his nickname, and also the former, he was a forefather of many of the families that today still live and work on the farm. In 2008, the year before we became Fairtrade accredited, our staff acquired a 26% share of the business. So we co-owners of Bosman Adama, the entire business, the land, the winemaking, the marketing, everything. So it's the whole value chain. And then we also later introduced Adama White. This is our rebranded packaging, and it might not yet be on the shelves, but it will soon be. The previous versions, it was a black label and a white label. That might still be in the Co-op shelves. And then the white now is also organic certified, so we should be very proud of. So that's the story. Let's stop share here.
Brilliant. Thank you both, Petrus and Elizabeth, for giving us a little bit of a background of Bosman Wines, the history, and what the Fairtrade has been doing. We'll just have a quick, well, not that quick, who knows, chat about a bit more of those sorts of things, if that's okay. I mean, maybe we can kick off, Petrus, what's going on in the vineyard at the moment?
Yeah, it's quite an exciting time, probably the most exciting time of the year. We're busy with harvesting. We're right in the middle of harvest. So our grapes are still, all our grapes, although is picked by hand. So we have harvesting teams, 6 of them. We have a blue team, a white team, a black team, a red team. They have flags like pirates on the trucks, and they're quite aggressive in picking. So it's quite a festive time, and then the grapes get crushed in the cellars and turned into wine. On the first wines will then the whites will probably must be ready by May, June to be shipped to the UK.
I should just say for everybody that's listening that if you want to ask a question from either Petrus or Elizabeth, if you put it in the chat, we'll do our best to pick those up. Can't guarantee we'll get to all of them, but we'll give it a try. So you've got a lot of people employed on in the business in total, and you keep those employed all the time, do you?
Yeah, I think what we try and do, and we're quite fortunate to have a vine nursery, which is very labor intensive. So every vine gets handled nearly 50 times before we sell it. So we make new vineyards that we sell on to other wine producers in South Africa, not only wine producers, but also table and grape and raisin grape producers. So that's quite a labor intensive, but also a very skilled process. So so mostly in the winter months and when there's normally no work, we have a lot of work. So we have opportunities, but I think Elizabeth herself is quite a good grafter, and most of other works being in the winters being set aside because everyone that can graft is because such a skilled and difficult process. It's
So Elizabeth, when you're not talking to us, what are you doing? What's your usual job?
Are you talking to me or maybe you?
Yes, I was talking to you, Elizabeth. I just wondered what your job is in the business.
I'm now full-time with the Grace. I'm the manager Grace here in the after school. So it's very nice and it's interesting to work with the children because they are 7 months and I can work with them until they are going to the primary school. And after that, I work always with them in the after school, and then we got the children and the high school, and so I'm always busy with the children and the farm, and also with the social projects on the farm. With the women club, I'm the chair lady of the women club. Also, we also recently finished a 3-year course of needlework. Our most important vision is to own our own business and the farm and Bosman Adama, because wasn't it for Bosman Adama, then we as the ladies, we are 10 ladies, we can't make it because they give us a financial injection, and also we use the premium money to finish the 3-year course of the needlework classes. We finished last year, so we're now planning and to go on forward and make the dress track suits, and also one day maybe we will make the uniforms of the farm, of the farm workers.
That would be a big job, I'd have thought. How many folk have you got working in the business, Petrus?
Yeah, we're about 350 permanent employees, and then yeah, we with harvest time, and we as I say, we also about 5 years ago started the blueberry division, and that's very labor intensive, and it clashed actually with when we plant the vines, and then we have to employ more people. Then we go up to about 800 people in spring.
Wow.
So, and for the season. So, but that's as a core about 350, 400.
And how does your business compare to a comparable size, wine producer? Is it quite similar in South Africa, or because you're fair trade, does it make a big difference?
Yeah, I think we are a relatively big primary producer of wine grapes. And we are quite diverse with the nursery as well. So half of the business is a nursery, and half other half is the wine grapes, and then the growing blueberry division, which I think one day we are to have it the third to have better diversification. As you know, that is quite a tough time now for the South African wine industry, as we had extensive booze bans, and you're not allowed to. At one stage, we weren't allowed to export wine, so it was a terrible time. So there was a big demand, especially in the UK, for wine, and we couldn't get it through our ports. Very frustrating. And now we have 3 lockdowns, and it does hurt the industry. You can't catch up. So we're a bit in a crisis in terms of oversupply. Fortunately, we have loyal Fairtrade support, and we predominantly export orientated, but at the end the industry is hurting, and that therefore also our customer base for our nursery. But but we are we're not the biggest, but we large. But I think what makes us unique is that we play the full value chain. We have the only quarantine, so we import our own varieties and new varieties. We have a plant improvement division, and then we take it all the way to direct to market, direct to the retailers like Co-op and Sainsbury and Waitrose. So we play the full value chain, which I think makes us a bit different. Where you typically only have a producer that delivers it grape to a co-op, and then you have other entities, big players like that only buy the wine and then market and create labels or let's sell it. So I think when you buy Bosman, it's a full integrated story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a few questions coming up on the chat. Shall I
Go for it, Becky.
interrupt you, Matthew, and
Yeah,
kick
go for
it.
it.
We've got a question here from somebody who's from Kathy, who's saying, are the vines insect pollinated, and do you keep bees in your vineyards?
Yeah, the blueberries are pollinated by bees. So but not the vineyard. So
Not
they
the
don't.
vineyards.
Yeah, they pollinate by wind. Yeah.
Right.
The blueberries are the bees are very important for the blueberries. So we work closely with beekeepers in our natural, and I think that's also why the environment is important and the indigenous forest. So we it's like a sanctuary for the bees in the off season.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And Colin's asking whether you were affected by the drought last year.
Yes, the last 3 years, and so it is actually very bad timing. We had 3 years of drought. I think last year we had a bit of recovery, and now we have the pandemic. So not easy times for the wine industry, but we have very good water infrastructure, and I won't say critical, but I think we all this year we see really a good recovery in terms of production. So back to normal, but I think 16, 17, 18 was really tough.
Okay. Do you want to carry on, Matthew?
Well, can you tell us maybe a little bit about the process of registering to become, when you actually first became Fairtrade 10 years ago? What's involved in that? How expensive is it? What does it cost you as a producer?
Elizabeth, do you want to answer? Maybe the audits. I think what's on your list still to finish. Maybe just as a producer, so Bosman Adama pay the annual fee. It's not cheap, but I think for a medium size, it's not that expensive. The cost of being fair trade is expensive in terms of we have limitations, so we can't use the cheapest chemicals. We must use those that are approved and not on the So we're a bit ahead of. I think what the challenge is sometimes with Africa, new. It's not registered in Africa, so it's the limit. You are more limited. Obviously, labor conditions are stricter. It's like we pay maternity leave where that is not a condition in South Africa. There's a few others. I think Elizabeth can elaborate on it.
Yes. Like Petrus said, that the Fairtrade premium make it possible. Fairtrade standards make it possible for the producers to pay maternity leave for our women on the farm, and we also get extra days, extra for when we are our children is sick. All the labor issues is continued. The Fairtrade standard make it possible for all that to happen and make our lives easier, and our labor conditions and the labor conditions, and also they need to look after the workers in the field where they work. It's when I can say when we work in the vineyard, in the people come to work, they were dangerous equipment. Then the ladies or the men go to another block and they work there. So we all are safe. We feel safe. Our safety comes first on Bosman Adama. And I think it's all because of the Fairtrade standards, because the Fairtrade standards cover many of the things that when I look to the other farms, what happened on the other farms, and we on Bosman Adama, we have a very good life, and we are looking good after of our employment conditions, and also after our safety in the houses. It's very clean, and we got drinking water, clean drinking water, and everybody got toilets inside the homes and not outside. The other farms, the toilet is outside the home. So the Bosman managed to look good after their labors.
Yeah.
Great, Elizabeth. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I must also say the staff must take good responsibility. So, for example, if you see a chemical operator going without a mask, then the other staff will tell him you're breaking the law, and it's culture change. And if he doesn't comply, then we are at risk of losing our accreditation, and that to affect the whole community. So we're now at a stage then where we really must take hands as employer and employees to upheld the accreditation, because there's a mutual benefit.
And I think our workers is now more empowered. They empower themselves because we got a lot of training that have left our mind, and we can do things that we can think for ourselves, and we can do things better than we used to be in the past.
I take it there are other fair trade producers in South Africa, aren't there?
Yes, there's quite a few, Matthew. I think there's about 50, although, yeah, obviously it's a few bigger ones. Yeah, but I think they might
Do you
have
have a network? Do you have a network, Petrus, of the fair trade wine producers? I mean, is there any sort of way of you sort of sharing, your approaches to things, or supporting each other at all with the sort of taking fair trade forward? Because obviously there are some barriers to doing that.
Yeah. Both from a supply side, we work very closely with two other fair trade suppliers to as supply partners, because sometimes the demand is bigger than what we can supply, and so we work mutually together. And then I think Elizabeth can they network quite extensively with other commodities like oranges and in citrus dals, so they do trips to other regions, so not only wine producers.
Elizabeth, I was going to ask you actually, Elizabeth, you were talking about your sports project and about the sewing, that you'd eventually like to sort of make your own uniforms and things for the sport. But I wondered whether the uniforms that they currently have, or the sports balls, the football, rugby balls, are they fair trade or not? Have you been able to make links with other fair trade producers of those items or not? Is that something you do?
At this moment, we bought the sport uniform, the choir uniform we bought from the premium money. But if we can get the chance if we can get the chance, then we can make the uniforms by ourselves for the choir, and we can make the sport uniforms for the choir. Well, because we got the equipment, and we are 10 ladies who I used to be in the sewing classes. And if I can come back to the other point, is we as the Bosman Adama FPC, we visit other farms, and we communicate with other workers on the other fair trade farms, and we share our skills and what we are doing with our project, and we listen to them, and we help each other to do the right thing and how to run the project in a positive way. So that is very good, because we got we are all got WhatsApp group on the different farms, like Petrus, Citrus, Dow, Stellenbosch, and Robertson, Rosenville. we got quite a little, but I found that we can communicate with each other and we can change valuable contact with each other and change, help each other if there's problems on the other farm, or they can help us and help us to produce our, to look after our project, and we can help them look after their projects.
I can maybe add the Fairtrade Africa network is also quite strong, especially in Kenya. I think you might get roses and other products from there. And Jody Ann looks after the finances, but also the logistics today of all our Fairtrade exports. She's been to Kenya, and so they have I think biannual workshop. So I think there's a good support system. Also for fair trade farms.
Do the fair trade, so that the producers that aren't fair trade, do they think that you're odd, strange, or weird?
No, Matthew. I must say that South Africa, as wine producing country, has actually done phenomenally well. There's a accreditation called VITA, the Wine Industry Ethical Trading Association. And we comply to both standards, and I must say they're very similar, with the exception that Fairtrade has this the Fairtrade Premium Committee, where there's a financial benefit for the community as well, and obviously trading benefits. Of course, you have a differentiated product with a unique label and the shelves. So. Yeah, and the standards are slightly high, as we've explained in our conversation in some cases, but it's getting more normal. I think you can't really today operate a commercial agricultural business or farming operation without being accredited. The market just demands it. If it's VITA, CISA, Global Gap, there's just so many accreditations. So we have full-time audits and systems, basically.
And does having the Fairtrade logo or the Fairtrade mark on your bottles, does that actually give you a premium? Do you think you actually benefit from people being prepared to buy that against something else?
In some markets like the UK, I think that's why a session like today is important, for the market to understand what Fairtrade means and what it means in our community, but in other markets it doesn't mean anything. I think the UK does have very high brand recognition for Fairtrade, similar to Nike. It's like over 90%, I think, in places like Sweden and Germany. But there are countries like South Africa we've tried to do, but there's a cost to having the logo, and there's a lot of complexity of having this extra printing costs and such. And so if the market doesn't understand it, we don't put it on the, you see in the back here, none of them have it on, none of our bottles, because this is for the South African market. So it is important that things like a Fairtrade fortnight and the local Fairtrade licensing offices to promote Fairtrade and to educate the market what Fairtrade really means.
Becky, have you got any more that you want to
coming up?
Yep.
Yes, there's a few on the chat feed that are coming up. So Nettie's asking about erosion from water or wind, and she's saying, is erosion a concern to you, and has the climate change had an effect on the amount of erosion you have on your vineyards?
Yes, we have decomposed granite soils mostly in Wellington, and they erode very easily. So when we plant new vineyards, it's probably the number one consideration is how we're going to deal with the water and get them safely out of the vineyard without that it create chaos. So you'll see, I think on the presentation, the vineyards had curves. So that's just all for not to have points where there's too much water deposit at one point. So we found that it rains less, but when it rains more. So
Yeah. Sort of following on really, there's another question here from Adrian, who's asking about your electricity supply. Obviously you showed some photographs of your solar panels and things before, and he's asking whether there are any government support for community renewable electricity projects.
Yeah, unfortunately not. I just see one coming out. I think if there's, I think there's a new one our Department of Trade and Industry has launched. If there's the community benefit, there might be a subsidy involved in renewable projects. So we are looking into that now. But as I said, the legislation wasn't very favorable to now. When we did the projects, it was supposed to be a bit of support from government. We never managed to get the project approved, so we done it on our own. But we're at a point now where our electricity, if we can do a renewable project, it will pay itself back because the electricity got so expensive. And unfortunately, our electricity is not very reliable. So all our critical processes we had to invest in generator own backup power supply. So it just makes sense for us to look in that direction. But again, it's capital. It's also not cheap in South Africa. It's and it's scarce. So it's so it's just all need to be considered.
Could you tell us a bit more about, you've got the 26% staff owning part of the business, or they own 26% of the business, is that right? And I mean, also Charles asked, I've read that Bosman land has been given to employees as part of the premium for homes and small farms. Can you tell us a bit more about that? So there's a couple for you.
I think we were fortunate in 2008, which actually started sooner in 2009. When I just joined the business. And we had the opportunity where government supported an initiative where the staff could buy into the business, and it enabled us to really develop the wine division of the business, to plant new vineyards, and really live our dreams. And subsequently, the business grew substantially. We're very proud of the project. It worked for us. I think there's a strong sense of, I don't know if you recall, but in 2013, there was labor unrest in the Western Cape farms, especially in the table grape farms at Durrance. And our staff really brought forward an initiative where we can look at working more collaboratively, and kind of took leadership in stabilizing the labor. And so I think there's plenty of benefit in having staff involved in, also on our board. We've got staff members. It's more collaborative way of working than against each other. It's about love, not lust. We see what we can do for our staff, and they see what they can do for the business. And I think it's a good circle. The investment grew substantially. A lot of the beneficiaries that have exited could bought houses or to look after healthcare as they get older. So apart from Fairtrade, which is a significant benefit, I think in the end of the year we're very conservative with dividends, not to keep it constant and growing rather than have erratic peaky dividend policy. Because I think it's also education process. So we kind of budget for a small dividend, and I think it's nice for the staff at the end of the year also to get a bit of a bonus in that sense.
Yeah. Does the Fairtrade premium raise a lot of funds for you then? I just wondered, sort of in an average year, what sort of value the funds might be that are raised through the Fairtrade premium that's put on the product, that then goes back into the Adama Foundation Fund.
of Elizabeth can say if it's a lot or not, but no, I think we're fortunate. It is quite substantial. In rand terms, Elizabeth is just over 2 million. So divided by 20, £100,000, I would say.
Gosh,
Yeah.
that's good, isn't it?
That's per year.
Per year, yeah.
Right.
That's very good.
Yeah.
So that enables you then to look at your community projects and to think what next and what you might be wanting to develop further down the line. Elizabeth, have you got other projects that you're looking towards developing at the moment?
Yes, we are looking forward to build our youth community center where we can host all the school children, community gatherings, social gatherings, and also do sports, inside sports.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that is our greatest need we got now at this moment in the housing project for our workers.
Yeah.
So the
Really
premium
good.
supports the children going to school, I think, is that right? It provides some of the school fees?
Yes, we pay out 50% of the school fees we pay. And this year we give for each child a school packet. Because we got the hamper of the books, give them a packet of books, and for the smaller children we gave a school pack with the pencils and pens and coloring pencils and so.
And if you weren't able to support the school fees to 50%, what would that mean for the people working there?
It makes a huge difference in their life because most of the parents got 2 children down to school. So it helped a little bit for them. And then we gave 50% and the other 50% the parent give. But I think it helped them because they asked for that, and that is the whole community come together and they ask for that. So that is one of the needs. And aftercare also in with the credit, we ask the minimum of the amount, but not so many. We don't ask a huge amount because we want our workers that must work with the money in. We gave them financial training, so I think they use to work. They know how to work with the money. But if you take the school fees 50%, I think that it's a huge impact in our life. I haven't got children on the school anymore, but I think I can put in and I can help the other workers on the farm to make their lives easier because it's not easy to have children on school, especially when you got more than one child on the school, in school.
Yeah.
It's amazing that you're actually doing all this in English, and I really appreciate that, both of you. You might just tell us what languages would be normally spoken around the vineyards.
Normally it's Afrikaans.
It's all Afrikaans, is it?
A little bit of Xhosa, but the most language is Afrikaans. Yes, in the vineyards and all over.
Well, I appreciate you speaking in English for us anyway.
There's a couple more questions on the chat relating to the animals, actually. So we've got a question about the sheep and goats. Are they used for anything else on the farm? For example, the milk or the wool, does that get used at all? And then Susan's asking that she noticed the photo of the deer earlier in the presentation, and do they nibble the young shoots of the vines, she's saying.
Yeah, it's a good question, Susan. Especially on young vines, it can be a problem. So we try to manage it on a. It's normally not the damage is not that big, but it's like the top part of the vineyard. Sometimes we put someone there to kind of look after the vineyard at a critical state. But once the vineyards are big, they outgrow how much a deer can eat. Fortunately, unfortunately, there's not so many deers to take down a whole vineyard, but we have, yeah, not in Wellington, but in Amanus especially, we have lost parts of vineyards or part of the crop to the vineyard. But I think my grandfather once said, if nature is a problem, you don't have enough vineyards, or you just plant more. That is for them as well. As I think similar with birds, they do their damage, but I think in the bigger scheme of things, it's not significant.
Mm.
The sheep and goats.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's quite new to us. My sister, I've got a younger sister. We're actually 3 brothers farming together. And my youngest sister, she's living in the Karoo. That's about 450 kilometers northeast of Cape Town. So it's semi-desert area, and they farm with sheep. So we have a rotation system, and it's also very dry there. So, and I actually visit this weekend. So yeah, it's very new to us. We don't use them for milk or such. It's just basically to grow them to become bigger. Yeah, and then they go back to lamb in the Karoo where it's dry and healthy. And my brother-in-law he takes good care of them. He's more in that side of the business.
What do you think about the future of fair trade itself? Anything about fair trade in general?
Yeah, I do think the market is getting more not concerned, but they care about where things come from. And I think what Fairtrade is very good, is doing very well, is, and most of the orders actually is on traceability. So it's knowing where the food that you and the wine that you drink is coming from, and that is produced in an ethical manner. So I do think it's on trend for the new consumer. So similar with this very good growth on organics, and I think that's what's important to understand. It's a holistic accreditation. It's about trade, sustainable trade, about the environment, and about people. So I think the only thing, as I said, that there is a part of the license fee that goes into the marketing, and that initiatives like Fairtrade Fortnight is effective, and that the message get carried over. So I'm not going. I think sure that I think what also again this pandemic learned us is that it's to live with greater care about what's happening in the world and around the world, and not in isolation. It's just so I think people. I think it's, as I said, it's on trend for the future.
Yeah. Good.
I've got. I think we're kind of coming towards the end, but I've got a very important question from Andy, which is, where can you get actually mail order Bosman wines in the UK?
Yes, there's Wood Vintners. They're actually based in Scotland. I should have shared that, but they stock most of our wines.
Well, if you send me that afterwards, Petrus, and
they have. Although I said it's more as it's our premium wines that they take care. It has been very tough for them as well, as they distribute into restaurants and golf courses mostly. So not a good time, but and generally I think the fair trade mechanism work on more on the grosses, the higher volume, because it's a fixed the premium fee per liter. So as I said, generally we don't if the volumes get low and small batches. We don't use the fair trade label. And that's the typical the wines they stock most of. So it is still Bosman, and it's still made. All our wines are fair trade accredited, but it doesn't necessarily carry the label for cost and complexity reasons. But
Sure.
yeah, Wood Winters is a company. Stevie, I know this is the guy there. But I'll definitely share the contact with you, Matthew.
Do that, and then I'll share it later. That'd be brilliant. Becky, anything final for you?
I don't think so. I think we've sort of covered most of the things. I had my little list of questions here. I think we've in the discussion covered most of it, and I think I've picked up the questions that came up on the chat feed. So apologies
Well,
if anybody posted something and I missed it, but I think I got them.
I think we just pass back to Alison. We'll put up a final slide which will have the details of how you can actually make a donation. If you want to make a donation through to one of the projects, we'll collect the money here and pass that on. So there'll be details of how to do that at the end. But I'll pass over to Alison now for the final bits.
Okay, thank you so much. That was really interesting, and it's amazing what's going on over in South Africa, and the work that you're doing is absolutely fantastic. It was lovely to hear all about it. So Petrus and Elizabeth, thank you so much for taking the time this evening to have such an interesting chat all about your wine and the projects funded through the premium. It's very much appreciated, and it was a lovely choir that was singing there at the start of the event. Thank you to the Dunsker Fairtrade team, especially Matthew and Becky, for all the hard work in putting this event together. You've worked really hard with Petrus and Elizabeth, and it's been a fantastic evening. Thank you to Dunsker Church for the use of the Zoom this evening, and all the co-hosts. Thanks, Kevin, Matthew, Becky, and along with Petrus and Elizabeth. And finally, thank you to everybody for zooming in tonight. I do hope you've enjoyed it as much as we have, and enjoy the rest of your evening. And there now will just be this final slide that Matthew was just talking about there. Thank you.
Thank you. Just from our side, yeah, thank you very much, Matthew, Dansko. Privileged to be part of the session.
Thank you.
One last try. No, that's not happening. So just say goodbye, everybody. Sorry about that, and I'll share around the details of how you can make the donation in due course. Thanks, everybody.
Bye, folks.